Welcome to Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association. Good day, everyone. This is Jason Wilson, president of the Kentucky Auto Dealers Association, and you are in for another edition of Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of KADA. So I have a special guest today. Very pleased to be joining us is Representative Ken Upchurch of District 52. A little background for those of you who don't know Representative Upchurch, though I think most of you do. As for starters, he sits on the House Transportation Committee. He is the chairman of the House Transportation Committee and has really done a lot of good work on behalf of the car dealers throughout the Commonwealth. He has served in the House. He originally served from 1999 to 2010 and came back in 2013, where he currently serves in that capacity, representing, again, District 52, which is part of Pulaski, McCreary, and Wayne County. So Representative Upchurch, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you being here. Glad to see you again.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a beautiful day outside and great day to be doing a podcast.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, first, I know it was a long session for sure. Lots going on this last go around. So hope you've had a few days to relax and catch your breath.
This session, it just seemed like it would never end. Of course, the 60-day session always has that, but yeah, I think the longer I serve, the longer they get. And I'm not sure if that's that I'm getting older or just a lot of the same in Frankfurt.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said on both counts there, but I think we'll start by, let's talk about some of these bills that went through that you were instrumentally involved with and certainly were important to the folks listening to this podcast. And I'll start with House Bill 284, which Representative Meredith carried. And that was after a long-term effort by the task force. We actually got legislation to pass on this. And obviously our dealers are very excited about it. But let me give your talks on, because you were involved with this from the beginning. What is your take and regarding the importance of this bill and why it finally came together, so to speak? Well,
obviously, KADA has worked on this for a long time, and I think just the stars aligned perfectly for this session. It's everything's moving to electronic transactions, so I think that's going to make transferring of vehicles, anything that has to do electronically is going to make your all's life much simpler as dealers. Interfacing with the CAVIS system. So that was a bill I think it was long overdue, but it's just taken a while to get through all the hurdles and negotiate with the clerks and get everybody on the same page finally. So that, I think that's something that you all will enjoy for a time to come.
Yeah, we are excited. Now, we understand this is going to take some time. It doesn't go into effect until January of 24, but there are other moving parts of this that have to be completed, most notably the CAVIS system, which is another point of interest, I'll say, for our car dealers to ensure that gets done. As you know, you've been here a long time, and that's been an ongoing battle as well, but seems to be heading the right way.
Well, we've got some pretty good leadership, and we understand, especially since we took control in 2016 and 17, we're trying to make Kentucky more and doing things from the legislative standpoint that makes the flow of business and transactional things run much smoother and kind of get the state out of the way so that business can do their business and keep government, from mucking up things.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Obviously, our car dealers deal with a lot of volume, a lot of transactions, stay busy constantly throughout the week. So any sort of hold up or slowing down in those things certainly can be problematic. So I agree. I think this is a huge bill that's passed, and it's going to have really long-term effects in a very positive way for those dealers here in Kentucky. So we're very excited about that. Next, let's chat a little bit about House Bill 490. This is one that didn't necessarily get a lot of attention, and this one dealing with counterfeit airbags. And there was some language in there, frankly, that we were pleased to get to keep out of that bill. But tell us a little bit about House Bill 490.
Well, that's one that I'm sure you all know Judy Taylor. She came to me with this bill, with counterfeit airbags, and we filed the bill, and then we had to withdraw the bill and have some more work done to it because our friends, the trial attorneys, kind of got involved in it, and they were wanting to add liability to the dealers, and that's something that if you're buying an airbag, you assume that it's not counterfeit,
Right.
And saw no need to add liability to a dealer who would install an airbag. So that was the trial attorney's portion of it. But if you get an airbag, you want it to function properly, and there is I guess a black market out there on these counterfeit airbags that they may work, they may not, and so we want to make sure Kentucky is a airbag safe state. I tease some people. I said this is an airbag bill, not a windbag bill. So we didn't talk about it much.
Well, and that's a good point. And it also goes to show that a lot of times it's not what you pass, but it's what you're able to keep out to keep things
Yes.
Much cleaner and much easier. So from that standpoint, I know our dealers do, inspections and whatnot before they put a vehicle on the lot to sell. They all have a process of some sort that it goes through in varying degrees. And so I think this is a positive thing. And as to the point made earlier, sometimes it's easier to keep these things. Less is more, as they say, and this is certainly the case.
Yes.
Is here. Look, another one that we've talked about, especially became an issue during COVID when everything slowed down and in some cases were ground to a halt, was House Bill 321 as it related to temp tags. Let's chat on that for a moment.
Well, that was a bill. Tom Underwood, we talked with Tom and Ryan about that bill quite a bit. And automobile dealers, when they're trying to get a vehicle licensed, sometimes, especially with COVID, getting the actual license plate to the consumer, with everyone working from home, became an issue because they weren't getting their temporary, or they were having to use a temporary tag for, they're issued for 30 days. And a lot of times they weren't getting their actual license plate till way after that. So they'd have to apply for a temporary tag, and it was just a hurdle that I think was unnecessary. Mm-hmm. And so we added 60 days to that, and I think the cabinet can surely get your license to you, your plates and everything to you within 60 days. And I think that will it just cut out some of the process that people were having to go through. And of course, COVID, I think, really highlighted that issue. Mm-hmm. It was a problem to begin with, but with COVID and people working from home, they weren't actually in the cabinet building at their desk processing this, and so it became apparent that something needed to be done, and so extending that to a 60-day window, I think will it works, and something we can revisit if we've got to do 90 days. We can do that. But everyone seemed to think that 60 days would be ample time. The cabinet was, they felt that 60 days they could get it out in that amount of time. So that's one of those things that hopefully will, as it goes into practice, will make automobile dealers' life much easier.
Yes, for sure. And it definitely cuts down on duplicating process. Again, you get that 30 days, you have to renew, and it's just more work for everybody. So I think this was really good, smart legislation that serves a practical standpoint. And boy, isn't that what we're always trying to do, right? If you pass legislation, you want it to be good and smart legislation, which isn't always the case. But I think on the bills we've spoken about here, we really have a good moving forward trajectory here as far as making life easier for those working every day throughout the Commonwealth in these dealerships. I think the last one that's worthy of touching on as well is Senate Bill 91. And this Senator Higdon brought this bill forward, and this bill makes basically legal current practices allowing licensed dealers with a physical location in Kentucky to deliver and sell vehicles at customers' homes, something that really we saw a lot of over these last couple of years.
Yeah, that especially during COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
it made a lot of sense because, um, the law was that you had to do the transaction and everything on the physical location of the dealership. And so when the dealer can deliver to the home and do that at the consumer's home, the paperwork and everything, it makes things much simpler. And it's like I said, another thing that COVID brought to the forefront. And I think, going forward, as we get past COVID, it will make, sales of vehicles, simpler, it will give dealers another tool in their toolbox to sell their product.
Yeah, and the other thing I like about this bill and where we got behind it and supported it is the fact that it has to be a licensed dealer physically in Kentucky. So that was something that made us comfortable and really felt good moving forward with, and it added some protections to the franchise system as a whole.
Right.
So
and get some of your internet dealers that or internet car sales people that, where they're selling vehicles and they don't have a license in Kentucky, it really stifles that process.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, look, that's some of the specific things related to our industry, but from your vantage point in leadership and the various things you're involved with, what the session just being over, there's a couple big items that certainly come to mind, but in your mind, what's the, I guess the monumental legislation or the important items that really serve the folks of Kentucky that came out of this session?
Well, I think with the tax reform passed in the budget, in years past, if the legislature has money, then they want to spend it and come up with all different kinds of projects and things. And we took a more, I think, adult approach about especially having this ARPA money, the federal dollars that flowed in because of COVID. We took a very, I think, mature approach about how we budgeted. We budgeted to our actual needs, not necessarily our wants.
Right.
And as a result, we had a pretty good surplus, and we parked that with the idea of doing some tax reform. And we hear all over Kentucky that why aren't we more like Tennessee, who has no sales tax or income tax?
Right.
And so we want to move Kentucky toward a consumer-based taxing base. And so getting rid of the income tax, I think, is very important. And so we've taken the first step in that by allowing the income tax to drop from 5% down to 4.5%, and we've met all the triggers. And so that will take effect in January of 23. So instead of paying 5% income tax, we'll be paying a flat 4.5%. And then as we move, across the years, it's going to take 8 to 12 years before it comes down to zero, possibly faster, depending on the growth.
Right.
But we budget, part of the surplus is paying for that tax cut. And we think that it will create more growth in our economy, cause more people to move into Kentucky who want to create jobs. And so therefore they'll be spending more money at their discretion.
Sure.
And we will reap the benefits of that on the sales tax side. And so each year it can't go down any more than 0.5% per year until it goes to zero, but it can't trigger up. So we keep triggering it down until it goes to zero. And there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that praised the legislature for not only passing that but overriding the governor's veto of it. So the governor did veto that portion of our revenue bill, and we overrode that overwhelmingly because we feel that it's the consumer's money. If they earn it, they should be able to spend it. instead of the state grabbing it up in income tax. So
Right.
if they want to spend it, then we're going to get it on the sales tax side. And we broadened some of the sales tax to some things that we think will be beneficial to the state to help partially pay for lowering that tax. But I think overall, the big benefit we will have from it is economic growth and jobs and more people moving into Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And look, you and I are about the same age. So by the time we're in those retirement years, we should be down to about zero on the income tax, which is not a bad thing. And hopefully we'll keep other Kentuckians in the state when they retire versus going to some of these other states where they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's important. Kentucky is has an aging population.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously we want our retirees to stay in Kentucky and more people to move to Kentucky, but we want people to move to Kentucky that are going to create jobs and bring industry into Kentucky. And, we started this during the 2018 session where we lowered the income tax from 6% to a flat 5%. And it actually increased our revenues. We started seeing the benefits of that. And then COVID hit. We were really looking seriously at during the 2020 session to continue that. But then we had that ugly monster creep up called COVID, and that kind of slowed us down. So what we wanted to do was kind of see how the revenues of the state survived. And we came out of it, I think, in pretty decent shape, a lot better shape than some other states around us did. But and so I think going forward, we will reap the benefits of what we did in this General Assembly. I think it was the best budget and especially the best revenue package that has been passed in the 22 years I've been in the legislature.
Well, that's saying something. That's encouraging for sure. So on that note, shifting gears, obviously this is an election year here in the Commonwealth. What do you see as a couple of the biggest challenges that Kentucky has moving forward, looking forward, that we need to be looking at, considering, and thinking about now?
Well, obviously, the big thing is our economic growth and getting more people working. We passed some welfare reform, some tax reform, and we've got to get more people working. We're like 48th or 49th in the nation in workforce participation. And if you're in business and hiring people, that it is just very, very difficult, not only to find people that will work, but the ones who will, you got to find the right person.
Right.
And during, the 2021 part of COVID, people just, they fell off the work rolls, and
right.
Some found that they didn't want to go back to work. And, that's a problem. And so I think we can, do some of these things that we've done in the session with the tax reform and getting some economic development in the state that'll cause, not only the people that aren't working, try to lure them back into the system, but grab some more people from other states to move into Kentucky.
Yeah, look, and I know you're well aware of this, being on transportation, as we talk about the car dealers throughout the Commonwealth. That certainly is a struggle in dealerships, whether that relates to technicians, salespeople, titling clerks, all aspect of dealership. It has been a challenge. That is one of the top challenges right now is staffing. And as you know, working in an auto dealership, these are good jobs. These are good paying jobs, and that remains a challenge. So it's
it gets us past the supply chain issue that we have, where you can't get product off of the docks,
right,
or from the manufacturers to the dealerships. I mean, it's and of course we all know the microchip problem that we're having in the auto industry.
Yeah.
And there's several other issues that have caused that, but we've got to get our people back to work and try to solve this supply chain issue. Just as an example, it's anecdotal, but the last 2 Sundays we've decided we wanted to grill cheeseburgers. And so you go to Walmart, which is a mile and a half away from my house, you get your hamburger and you go to the bread aisle and there are no hamburger buns. And so it's very frustrating as, the supply chain is just decimating, especially small communities like I live in. And
look, it's especially concerning. And when you're talking about food, especially, it gets very concerning.
Yes.
And of course, there's a host of issues that we can talk about, both, on a national level that certainly impacts Kentuckians. One thing I just thought I would get your take on as a representative, as a businessman and whatnot. You're certainly involved in social media. Just curious what your take is on the Twitter change regarding Elon Musk now as the privately held owner of Twitter. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I love it. When you've got an organization like Twitter or Facebook or these social media platforms that not only stifle free speech, but shadow ban people's opinions and don't allow, whether it's left or right. And to this point, it's been all the right that's been shadow banned and stifled the discussion. But free speech, say what you want, pay the price for it. There's a price to be paid.
Right.
If you say something that is just totally goes against social norms, but that's part of living in a free country. Say what you want and stand by it. But you've got an organization like that just stifles that, and it's really the only Twitter and Facebook, and they're the only two trash bins of society, I guess, that people really pay attention to for public opinion.
Yeah.
And so is that part of it. I think if he holds true to what he's saying about opening it up to free speech and letting people's opinions, let them express their opinions, whether it's right or wrong, everyone has a right to their own opinion.
Right.
So,
well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We know it's been an impact in past elections, especially as social media has been a big part of it. So it will be interesting to watch. So before we wind down, let's change up a little bit. So when you are not in Frankfort and on the transportation committee and the various other committees you're involved with and House leadership, what are you doing outside of in your spare time between your family and outside interests?
Well, right now I'm sitting in my truck in front of my insurance office. It's a lot easier just to do it by Zoom by in the truck because the phone will probably be ringing in there. And so I came out here to do it, but we've got an insurance agency. My family's been in it for almost 50 years. And so I decided to join a few years ago. So if any of the dealers need work comp, liability insurance, health insurance, we can deliver. So put in a plug for Upchurch Insurance and Financial Services while I'm at it. But
there you go.
You stay busy doing that, and got a little farming operation with my brothers, and taking care of Mama's honeydew list. Keeps me busy.
Well, hopefully you have a little bit more time doing that these days. And one thing I was told to ask you about is the Breakfast Club. Tell us a little bit about the Breakfast Club in Frankfort.
Well, I know nothing. That's top secrets. I mean, it really is. You know what happens at Breakfast Club stays at Breakfast Club.
Very good. Very
So
good.
if you want to come and participate, it's early in the morning in the cafeteria during session.
All right. I'll have to come first.
I know nothing.
All right. I can't promise folks I'll be reporting back any details, but it sounds like I need to check it out for sure. So
you remember the movie Stroker Ace? The guy says, "I know nothing. I am merely a messenger." Well, I know nothing.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. It sounds like a good place for breakfast too. On that note, Representative Upchurch, really appreciate your time talking to our members. Appreciate your leadership on the various issues, not only what we've just talked about from this last session, but in past years. Obviously, transportation is a big part of something we follow and involved with as the auto dealers. and just very much appreciate your leadership through the years. And again, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude this edition of Kentucky Horsepower. We'll see you down the road.